Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are working on my 2004 BMW 325i. Been driving a little bit. There are some major issues with the suspension, and that's what we're hopefully going to address today. I also have a brake pulsation. If we have time, we'll cover that as well. When I hit the brakes, I'll put the clip up right now. The tire likes to slam backwards, makes a really loud clunk. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of control. So we need to identify which control arm bushing is at fault. It's normally the rear one, so I'm sure that's what it is, and that's what I've already ordered. If we have issues with the front one as well, then we're gonna have to order those parts. And we also have an issue with the front struts. They are very bouncy, and that causes all kinds of stability issues. When you're driving at night, people start flashing their lights at you because they think that you're flashing lights at them or that you're blinding them with your high beams. Not a whole lot of control there. So we are going to hopefully replace the front struts. I have some off of Amazon. We are going to compare and make sure they're correct before we tear the old ones out of there. To check those control arm bushings, I'm going to use the tool that I made in the Make a Tool Challenge. It's just a piece of pipe. I think this is like 1.25 inch tubing, 1.5 inch tubing maybe, bent at maybe a 70-degree angle. And then I have a hood prop rod. This we're going to stick on the brake pedal to hold the brakes down. This we're going to use to identify where the play is coming from in the suspension components. Now it looks like most of the play is at that rear bushing. Let me see if I can fit you guys underneath there so you can take a look as well. So let's just go ahead and take all these off. These don't have lug studs, they have lug bolts. So when you take this out, there's nothing there to hold the tire. So when you pull the last one out, you have to be kind of ready because the tire will fall right off of there. Except for this one because it's kind of stuck. Now looking at our strut, we can see lots of leakage from the strut itself. It looks like the boot is saturated with oil. The bump stop is busted. So in this situation, you're best off to either replace all the components individually. The spring can probably be reused. What I did is I purchased a quick strut that is fully assembled. Now sometimes they're not the same kind of quality that you get from OEM, but it's a whole lot cheaper to do it that way than replace each one of these components individually. The other alternative would be to convert this to a aftermarket coilover kit, which is going to be a little more expensive, but at least you're replacing everything. And they have their own specific hardware for those kits. And then you can adjust the height if you want to, put different weight springs, lower it down, whatever you want to do there. So if you're planning on doing that, then I would just go with the coilover kit at this point. The strut in the right front, it shows some old signs of oil, but there's nothing fresh. But as we could see when I was bouncing it, both front struts are junk. This one also has the insulator torn and the bump stop is torn as well. So I'm planning on replacing both front struts as long as the ones I got are correct. These are the quick struts that I got on Amazon. I don't know if this is left or right. The only difference that I can see is the mounting location of the sway bar link. So we're hoping that these are correct for the application. Let's see. Do not remove the nut. It will release the spring. It'll kind of blow up in your face. Don't take that nut loose. Just sticking this in there. It looks sort of the same. The sway bar mounting bracket is in the same spot. Oh, and it even says, can you see that? It says FL on there, front left. So we're good to go here. We just have to take off the old one. Hopefully it cooperates, and install the new one. So it looks like our brake pad sensor, ABS sensor, and brake hose all go into this bracket, which is held on by the bolt that sandwiches our strut into the knuckle. So if we pull that bolt out, we can take the bracket out of the way. We don't have to worry about taking off each and every one of these. Unless we need some more wiggle room, we can take them loose from the bracket on the body. And one thing I encountered on the other side is this sensor. It is a height sensor. It is bolted onto the control arm. So make sure to take this little nut loose so you do not break that sensor. Looks like the bolt on the knuckle is an 18 millimeter. I actually didn't expect the strut to start sliding out of there that easy. If you live, in the Northeast, you're probably gonna have a lot more issues than that, but I suppose with all the oil leaking out of the strut, it probably lubricated that up pretty well. We're also gonna have to take the sway bar link loose. I may hit this with a wire brush real quick, try and get some of that dirt off of there. Cleaning that up is gonna make this nut come off there a little easier. If we don't, it could gall up the threads and create bigger issues. I don't want to have to replace more parts than I have to. That one is a 16 millimeter. And it's already stuck. So what we have to do is, I don't think there is. Sometimes there'll be a spot for an Allen or a Torx in the front. I don't see it there. So we're gonna have to grip the shank in the back, the part of the ball and the stud here, and hold it in place. I do have a special set of pliers for that, but channel locks will work also. These locking jaw pliers, like a vice grip, have a really narrow jaw, so it'll fit down behind here without pinching the boot. We can hold on to that. I'm just going to pry down on the control arm slightly, see if we can't separate this strut from the knuckle. Okay, we want to make sure not to stretch our cables. I did unhook them from the body there. We don't want to stretch them more than we have to. Now we have our strut. We just have the 3 bolts up top, and this will fall right out of here. There are a couple of lineup tabs that center it in the knuckle. It'll hold our position there. Okay, I'm going to hold onto the strut down below, take these 3 nuts off of here. Actually, I'll take 2 of them off, and then we will secure the strut. One more quick visual inspection. It looks like they are the same height, so we can go ahead and install these. If I saw a ½ inch or so difference in height, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Any more than that, and they might be the incorrect shock or strut assembly for the application. We do have to make sure to install this in the correct orientation. There's a little bump right here and a little arrow on the strut mount. That's going to go towards the inside of the vehicle. There is a lineup hole on the body for that bump to fall into. And I am using the old nuts on here. The thread pitch is the same, and I prefer the lock nuts over the ones that came with the new struts. Okay, the lineup tabs on the new struts are slightly different. Instead of having 2 studs sticking out, it has a bracket welded on, which is going to limit how far in this will go into the knuckle, which is fine. And then there's a lineup tab here that's going to go in the split at the back of the knuckle. With the lineup tab in place and the knuckle pushed all the way up as far as it'll go, I'm going to put this bracket back into place, put the through bolt in, and we'll tighten that up. We need to reattach our sway bar end link. Looks like we'll have to put the pliers on the back again. And this side is done. Now that we're done with the strut, let's go ahead and lift it up in the air a little higher. We'll do the control arm bushing. The control arm bushing is pressed onto the control arm. I believe they make a special tool for popping that off. I don't have the tool, so we'll have to improvise something. There's just 2 bolts holding it to the body. Looks like 16mm bolt. 16mm on the head of the bolt. And lots of play on there. Now, because this is rubber mounted, hitting it with a hammer or an air hammer or something isn't going to do as much good as you would hope. Plus, we can risk damaging the aluminum control arm. Now, even if you replace the aluminum control arm, most of them don't come with this bushing, so you will have to transfer this bushing over or put a new one on there. Verify that we have the correct part. Looks like that's a left, and that one's a right. Does look the same. Hopefully this bushing is a little bit better than the other one. Want to make sure we have the right ones before we pop that off. Okay, I grabbed a bigger plate. Hopefully that'll work. I think that'll barely clear. I have one that's slightly larger than this, but it becomes a little difficult to assemble in a tight space like this. I don't want to have to take the control arm off the vehicle either. So hopefully this will work. And what this is going to do is I'm not going to clamp it down tight. I don't want to be squishing on the control arm. I'm just going to snug it a little bit to where it's holding or pushing on the inner part of the bushing in the back. Now that we have that, I have 2 studs sticking off of here. This little plate is going to go on there. This is adjustable depending on whatever width you're operating at. Take one of these nuts off. Okay, I think I got a pretty good bite on there. Now I'm just going to turn the forcing screw. I did kind of line it up center with the control arm. It has a small point on the end. It'll probably just dent it slightly, but it'll be all right. Okay, now that the old one is off, we have to figure out a way to get the new one on. We'll see if we can do it on the vehicle. Just for giggles, I will see if I can pound it on there with the rubber mallet. I think the last time I did this did not work. But you never know. Well, you know, it worked. It looks like we made it on just as far as the other one was. So I'm going to call that a win, and we'll go ahead and mount it back up to the body. Now, something to keep in mind when you install this. If you look at this side here, if we can focus on it, there are larger holes on one side than the other. And what there is on the body, I'll just drop this down and I'll show you. There are 2 lineup dowels that stick down that slide into those. So when you install this, make sure to install it the correct way with those larger holes pointing towards the body. Otherwise you have to pull the whole thing off again. Okay, I still got to do the other side, but I'll go ahead and cut this here for now. You guys don't need to watch me do it all over again. I'm also going to have a brake video coming out. I don't want to have too much in the one video, so we will have, probably right after this one, a video with checking the brake run out, the rotor thickness, and then performing an on-car machine if I have enough life left on those. All the parts I used and the tools I used, the specialty tools anyways, I'll try to link those down below. I'll put a link for the factory, or not the factory, but the aftermarket tool that does those bushings. Maybe a little easier than my set. If you want a set that can do more than one job, I recommend the bearing separator plate like I have, because it does a wide variety of things, including stuff it's not designed for. It took those bushings off without an issue. So that might be something you want to add to your arsenal. You may already have one of those plates, but you may just be lacking the crossbar and the forcing screw, and that might be something you can purchase separately to expand the capabilities of the tools that you already have. Once I get the other side done, the brakes done, I will have to get it on the alignment rack, check the toe. There's not really a whole lot of adjustability on these, so if something is out of spec, then it's probably bent or broken. So hopefully everything else is good. We'll at least get the toe set. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.